We canceled the old woman's room. She deserves to sleep in the garbage bin. My daughter-in-law Amber's voice rang through the grand lobby of Bayou Heights Resort like a gunshot. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead. Marble floors gleamed beneath our feet. Elegant families in designer clothes turned to stare. And there I stood, Deborah Fletcher, 60 years old, clutching my small rolling suitcase while my own son Kenneth laughed nervously at his wife's cruelty. Real quick before I tell you what happened next, subscribe if you haven't already. I want to know where you're watching from, especially if you've ever been publicly humiliated by the children you sacrificed everything for. If you've ever felt invisible after decades of working yourself to the bone for a family that treats your home like a free hotel and your bank account like their personal ATM, this is how a 60-year-old mother who worked 38 years as a nurse in Houston supporting an ungrateful family taught her daughter-in-law that respect isn't optional and that even the woman who raised her husband alone has limits. It's about remembering who raised Kenneth by herself when his father walked away when he was 7, who worked double shifts at Memorial Hermann Hospital so he could have tutors and a college education, who gave them $52,000 as a wedding gift while wearing the same 4 outfits for years because every dollar went to making sure her son had opportunities she never did. Let me back up, give you the whole picture. It started with a phone call 3 months earlier. Kenneth had called me on a Tuesday evening, sounding unusually cheerful. "Mom, Amber and I are taking the kids to Bayou Heights Resort for spring break. You know, that luxury place near Galveston? We thought, well, there's room if you want to come." My heart had leaped with a hope I should have immediately crushed. "Really? You want me to come?" "Sure," he said, though I could hear Amber's voice in the background, sharp and dismissive. "I guess your mother can come if she really wants to." That tone. I knew it so well. Every invitation from Amber came wrapped in reluctance, every gesture a favor I didn't deserve. But I said yes anyway, because they were my family. Because Kenneth was my only child. Because my 2 grandchildren, Isaiah and Maya, were the lights of my life. The drive from Houston to the resort took nearly 5 hours. Kenneth drove our modest Honda sedan while Amber sat in the passenger seat, complaining about everything. The traffic on I-45. The heat, the radio station Kenneth chose. The fact that we had to stop twice because 10-year-old Isaiah needed a bathroom break. "Can't you hold it?" Amber snapped at him. "We're almost there." "He's 10 years old," I said gently from the back seat, where I was squeezed between suitcases and Maya's booster seat. Amber turned to glare at me over her shoulder. "I wasn't talking to you, Deborah." Kenneth said nothing. He never said anything. For 14 years, I'd watched my son turn into a shadow of himself, always appeasing his wife, always choosing the path of least resistance, always pretending not to hear when she spoke to me with contempt. I looked out the window at the flat Texas landscape rolling by, trying to convince myself this trip would be different, that maybe, just maybe, we could be a real family for a few days. Bayou Heights Resort appeared before us like something from a magazine, white limestone facade, immaculate gardens with live oaks draped in Spanish moss, a massive fountain at the entrance featuring bronze dolphins. The parking lot was filled with luxury vehicles, Mercedes, Range Rovers, Teslas. Kenneth parked our Honda among them, and for a brief moment, I felt a flutter of excitement. We walked into the lobby, and the air conditioning was a blessing after the humid Texas heat. The interior was even more breathtaking. Soaring ceilings, crystal chandeliers that must have cost more than my annual salary, and marble floors polished to a mirror shine, well-dressed families lined up at check-in. Uniformed employees moved with quiet efficiency. Soft jazz played in the background. I trailed behind as Kenneth and Amber approached the reception desk. Isaiah and Maya ran toward a decorative fountain with colorful fish. I held my small suitcase, suddenly feeling out of place in my simple cotton dress and comfortable walking shoes, while everyone around me wore designer resort wear. Amber spoke to the receptionist, a young woman with her dark hair pulled back in an elegant bun. I watched her check something on the computer. Amber nodded. Kenneth signed papers. Everything seemed normal. Then Amber turned around. That look was in her eyes. The same look she always had right before she said something cruel disguised as a joke. She walked toward me deliberately, her designer heels clicking against the marble like a countdown. The lobby was full of people. Families waiting their turn, employees with luggage carts, guests relaxing on leather sofas, and Amber raised her voice. Not quite shouting, but loud enough for heads to turn. "We canceled your room, Deborah." The words didn't register at first. I waited for Kenneth to correct her, to say there was a mistake, but he just stared at the floor, hands in his pockets. "We're not going to waste money on a room for you," Amber continued, her voice growing louder, clearer, making sure everyone could hear. "You can sleep in the garbage bin outside. It's what you deserve." Laughter. I heard laughter, not from everyone but enough. An older white man in expensive golf clothes chuckled. A younger couple whispered and smiled. Even the receptionist looked down uncomfortably, as if witnessing this humiliation was somehow part of her job. And Kenneth, my son, the child I raised alone, the boy I held when he had nightmares about his father leaving, the teenager I worked double shifts to send to college, he laughed. Soft, nervous, but I heard it. That laugh hurt more than anything Amber had ever said to me in 14 years. Isaiah looked confused. "Grandma, where are you going to sleep?" Amber yanked his arm. "Hush, baby. The grown-ups are talking." I felt heat rise through my chest, up my neck, spreading across my face like fire. It wasn't just shame. It was something deeper, more complex. A mixture of humiliation, betrayal, and pain, so sharp I could barely breathe. The chandelier lights seemed too bright. The murmur of conversations around me became a distant buzz. My legs trembled. For a moment, I considered simply turning around and walking out, calling an Uber back to Houston, disappearing from their lives as they clearly wanted. But something shifted inside me in that instant. It wasn't rage, not yet. It was clarity. For 14 years, I had tolerated Amber's cruelty. The comments about my clothes being outdated, the convenient forgetfulness when it came to inviting me to family events, the Christmases where there wasn't room in the car to pick me up, even though I lived 20 minutes away, the birthday parties for Isaiah and Maya where the invitation arrived the day after the party happened, with Amber's fake apology about the mix-up with dates. And Kenneth never said a word, never defended me. He always had an excuse, a justification, a way to minimize what his wife did. "She's just stressed. Mom, you're being too sensitive. Can't you just let it go?" I let it go because I was afraid of losing them completely, afraid of never seeing my grandchildren, afraid of being alone in my small house in Houston with nothing but memories and regret. But standing in that luxurious lobby with strangers looking at me with pity or amusement, I realized something profound. I had already lost them. I lost them the first time Kenneth chose Amber's cruelty over my dignity. I lost them every time I swallowed my hurt to keep the peace. I lost them years ago. I took a deep breath. My hands stopped shaking. I straightened my back and adjusted the handle of my suitcase. I walked toward the reception desk with steady steps, even though inside I felt like I was crumbling into pieces. I didn't look at Amber. I didn't look at Kenneth. I kept my eyes forward, focused. The receptionist watched me approach with a cautious expression. "Ma'am, is there something I can help you with?" I reached into my purse, past my reading glasses, past the pack of tissues I always carried, past the wallet with photos of Isaiah and Maya as babies. My fingers found what I was looking for. A card. Heavy, substantial, with a particular sheen under the lobby lights. Not a regular credit card. This was different. I placed it on the marble counter without saying a word. The receptionist picked it up, Her eyes widened immediately. She looked at the card, then at me, then back at the card. Her fingers trembled slightly as she slid it through the reader. "Mrs. Fletcher," she whispered, her face going pale. We didn't know you would be here today. I apologize. There was no reservation under your name in our system." Behind me, the silence was absolute. I could feel the stares boring into my back like physical pressure. The receptionist typed rapidly on her computer, her movements becoming more nervous with each keystroke. "One moment, please, ma'am. I need to. I'm calling the general manager immediately." And then he appeared. Robert Martinez, a distinguished man in his early 52s wearing an impeccable charcoal suit, walking quickly from a side office. His expression transformed from professional concern to something almost reverent when his eyes landed on me. "Mrs. Fletcher," his voice carried through the lobby, rich and warm. He strode toward me with purpose. "We had absolutely no idea you would be gracing us with your presence today. Your name is on our ownership registry." The world seemed to stop spinning. Ownership registry. Owner. I heard a sharp intake of breath behind me. I knew exactly who it was. Robert continued speaking, but I could barely process his words through the pounding of my heart. Something about the presidential suite. Something about how the entire staff was at my disposal. Something about upgrades and amenities and his personal apologies for the confusion. I turned around slowly, deliberately. Kenneth was white as a sheet. His mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water, trying to form words that wouldn't come. Amber's face had frozen in an expression of pure shock, her carefully applied makeup suddenly looking garish under the chandelier lights. The other guests who had been watching the spectacle were now whispering among themselves, some looking embarrassed for having laughed, others looking at Amber with undisguised disgust. "Mrs. Fletcher," Robert said, touching my elbow gently to get my attention. "Would you like to see your accommodations? The presidential suite has a view of the bay. I believe you'll find it quite comfortable." "That would be lovely, Robert," I said, my voice steady and clear. "Thank you." I started to follow him, then stopped, turned back to face my son and daughter-in-law. The receptionist was still standing there, looking uncertain about what to do with Kenneth and Amber's reservation. "Robert," I said calmly, "what room were my son and his family assigned?" He checked with the receptionist. "The Oleander Suite, ma'am. It's one of our premium rooms on the 3rd floor with a partial bay view." "I see." I paused, letting the moment stretch. "Please move them to a standard room. Garden view. And remove the meal plan upgrade from their package. They can pay for their own meals." Robert didn't even hesitate. "Of course, Mrs. Fletcher. Consider it done." "Wait," Amber finally found her voice, shrill and desperate. "You can't do that. We paid for that room." "Actually," Robert said, his tone professional but cool, "Mrs. Fletcher is one of the 3 principal owners of this resort. She can do whatever she wishes." I watched the realization dawn on Amber's face, then Kenneth's, the pieces clicking into place. The reason I'd always declined their invitations to expensive vacations, saying I couldn't afford them. The reason I wore simple clothes and drove an old Honda. The reason I'd given them $52,000 as a wedding gift without blinking. Not because I was poor, because I was careful. Because I'd learned from my late husband Thomas, who'd been a brilliant investor before his death 8 years ago. Because we'd built something together, invested wisely, and when he passed, he'd left me not just memories but security. Security I'd never flaunted, never mentioned. Because I wanted to see who my son really was, who he'd become, whether he'd defend me, love me, respect me for who I was, not what I had. And now I had my answer. "Enjoy your stay," I said quietly to Kenneth. "All of you." I turned and followed Robert toward the elevator, leaving my son, his wife, and their shocked silence behind me. The presidential suite was on the top floor, accessed by a private elevator that required a special key card. Robert stood beside me in the elevator, maintaining a respectful silence. I could see him glancing at me occasionally, probably wondering what was going through my mind. "Mrs. Fletcher," he finally said as we ascended, "I must apologize for the incident downstairs. Had we known you were arriving today, we would have ensured—" "It's not your fault, Robert," I interrupted gently. "I didn't make a reservation. I was supposed to be staying in my son's room." I paused. "Or sleeping in a garbage bin, according to my daughter-in-law." His jaw tightened. "That was completely unacceptable behavior. I'm deeply sorry you were subjected to that." "Don't be. Sometimes we need to be humiliated to finally find our backbone." The elevator doors opened directly into the suite, and even with everything swirling in my mind, I couldn't help but catch my breath. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Galveston Bay, the afternoon sun sparkling on the water like diamonds. The living area was larger than my entire first apartment when Kenneth was a baby. Cream leather furniture, a baby grand piano in the corner, fresh flowers on every surface. "The bedroom is through there," Robert gestured. "There's a second bedroom if you have guests. The bathroom has a soaking tub with bay views. The balcony wraps around the entire suite. Chef Michael can prepare anything you'd like, anytime. Just call the concierge." "Thank you, Robert. Is there anything you need right now? Anything at all?" "Just some time alone." He nodded, handed me a personal card with his direct line, and left quietly. I stood at the window for a long time, watching boats move across the bay, watching seagulls circle and dive. My phone buzzed, then buzzed again, and again. I pulled it out. 7 text messages from Kenneth. "Mom, please. We need to talk. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know about the owner thing. Amber is really upset. Can you please reconsider the room change? The kids are confused. Isaiah is asking why you're mad at us. This is embarrassing, Mom. People are staring at us. Can we at least have dinner together? Please? You're being unfair. We drove all the way here, and now you're punishing us." Punishing them. The word made me want to laugh and cry at the same time. I was punishing them by not allowing them to continue disrespecting me, by not subsidizing a vacation where they'd planned to humiliate me. I turned my phone off and placed it face down on the marble coffee table. There was a knock at the door. I opened it to find a staff member with a luggage cart. My small suitcase looked almost comical next to the cart designed for wealthy travelers with multiple designer bags. "Your luggage, Mrs. Fletcher. Where would you like it?" "Just inside is fine. Thank you." After he left, I unpacked my modest clothes and hung them in a closet that could have fit 50 times what I'd brought. I took a long bath in that magnificent tub, watching the sun lower toward the horizon, turning the bay golden. The water was hot and scented with lavender. My muscles, tight with tension from the drive and the confrontation, slowly began to relax. But my mind wouldn't stop racing. I thought about Thomas, my husband of 26 years, the man who'd stepped into Kenneth's life when he was 7 and his biological father had abandoned us. Thomas had loved Kenneth like his own son, had taught him to ride a bike, helped with his homework, attended every baseball game. Thomas had also been the one to teach me about investing. "Deborah," he'd said during those long evenings at our kitchen table, "you're one of the smartest people I know. Don't let anyone make you feel small because you're a nurse instead of a doctor. And don't let anyone take advantage of your kindness." When Thomas died suddenly of a heart attack 8 years ago, I'd been devastated, but he'd left me secure. The investments we'd made together, including a significant stake in 3 luxury properties, including Bayou Heights Resort. I'd never told Kenneth the full extent of what Thomas had left me. Partly because I was private about finances, partly because I wanted Kenneth to love me for who I was, not what I had, and partly, if I was honest with myself, because I'd already seen the seeds of entitlement growing in him after he married Amber, the assumption that my house was his emergency hotel, the assumption that my bank account was there for his convenience, the way he'd asked me to co-sign loans, to help with down payments, to contribute to their lifestyle while never asking about mine. I'd helped because he was my son, because I remembered the scared little boy whose father had left, because I wanted him to feel secure in ways I never had growing up poor in Houston's 3rd Ward. But I'd created a monster. Or rather, I'd enabled Amber to create one. After my bath, I wrapped myself in the plush robe hanging in the bathroom and sat on the balcony, watching the stars begin to appear. The bay breeze was warm and salt-scented. From somewhere below, I could hear music and laughter from the resort's restaurant. My phone buzzed again. I turned it back on out of habit. This time it was Amber calling. I let it go to voicemail. Then she called again. And again. Finally, I answered. "What? Amber? How could you do this to us?" Her voice was shrill, accusatory. "Do you have any idea how humiliating this is? We're in a tiny room with 2 double beds. The kids have to share a bed. There's no view. The bathroom is cramped. This is supposed to be our vacation." "Then you should have planned better," I said calmly. "Kenneth says you own part of this place. Is that true? Have you been lying to us about money this whole time?" "I haven't lied about anything. I simply haven't discussed my private finances with you." "That's the same thing. You let us think you were just some broke old nurse." "Careful, Amber. I am a nurse. I worked at Memorial Hermann Hospital for 38 years. That's not something to be ashamed of. You know what I mean. You've been playing poor while sitting on who knows how much money." "That's disgusting. And now you're using that money to punish Kenneth for my joke." "Your joke?" I repeated flatly. "You told me I should sleep in a garbage bin, in front of a lobby full of strangers. You humiliated me deliberately." And Kenneth laughed. We were just kidding around." "No, you weren't. You've been treating me like garbage for 14 years, Amber. Every holiday you've excluded me from. Every birthday party invitation that came too late. Every time you've rolled your eyes when Kenneth suggested, including me, I've watched you poison my son against me little by little. That's not Kenneth makes his own decisions, does he? Because from where I'm standing, Kenneth does exactly what you tell him to do, including laughing when his wife tells his mother she belongs in a trash bin." Silence on the other end. "I want you to listen to me very carefully, Amber," I continued, my voice steady and cold. "You and Kenneth are going to stay in that standard room for the duration of your vacation. You're going to pay for your own meals. You're going to treat the staff here with respect. And you're not going to contact me again unless it's to apologize sincerely for 14 years of cruelty. You can't just..." "I can. And I am. Enjoy your vacation." I hung up, blocked her number. Then, after a moment's hesitation, I blocked Kenneth's number too. The silence that followed was profound, liberating, terrifying. I sat on that balcony until nearly midnight, wrapped in the expensive robe, watching the lights of boats on the bay, listening to the distant sound of waves. Somewhere in this same building, my son and his family were probably arguing about me, probably calling me names, probably planning how to manipulate me back into compliance. But for the first time in 14 years, I didn't care. The next morning, I woke to sunlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows. For a moment, I forgot where I was. Then it all came rushing back. The lobby, the humiliation, the revelation, the presidential suite. I ordered breakfast from room service. Chef Michael himself brought it up on a cart with silver covers. Fresh fruit, scrambled eggs with smoked salmon, perfectly crispy bacon, French toast with real maple syrup, and the best coffee I'd ever tasted. "Mrs. Fletcher, it's an honor to cook for you," he said. "Mr. Thomas used to request my crab cakes whenever you both stayed here. I was so sorry to hear of his passing." My throat tightened. "You remember Thomas?" "Of course. He was a remarkable man, and he always spoke so highly of you and your son." He paused delicately. "I hope everything is well with your family." "It will be," I said. "Eventually." After breakfast, I changed into my swimsuit, a simple one-piece I'd packed, and went down to the resort's private beach. The morning was already warm, typical for Texas in late March. The sand was white and fine, the water a beautiful blue-green. I found a lounge chair under a palm tree and settled in with a book I'd brought. For the first time in years, I had nothing to do, no one depending on me, no grandson's soccer game to attend, no daughter-in-law's demands, no son's emergencies that somehow always required my time or money. Just me. The beach. The book. The sound of waves. Grandma? I looked up to see Isaiah standing a few feet away, wearing his swim trunks and a Houston Astros t-shirt. He looked uncertain, like he wasn't sure if he was allowed to approach. "Isaiah, baby," I said, setting down my book. "Come here." He ran to me and threw his arms around my neck. "Mom said you're mad at us." "Are you mad at me?" My heart broke. "No, sweetheart. I'm not mad at you or your sister. I could never be mad at you." "Then why won't you stay in our room? We have an extra bed. Maya and I can share." I pulled back to look at him. His face was so earnest, so confused. He was 10 years old. He didn't understand the complexities of adult relationships, the slow accumulation of hurt, the breaking point. "Isaiah, do you know what happened yesterday? In the lobby?" He nodded slowly. "Mom said something about you not having a room, and then she said something mean. Dad told me not to worry about it. Your mom said I should sleep in a garbage bin. Do you think that was a nice thing to say?" His eyes widened. "That's really mean, Grandma." Yes, it was. And when people are mean to us, especially in front of other people, we have to show them that it's not okay. Do you understand? "I guess." He looked down at his feet. "But I miss you. We never see you anymore." The pain of those words hit me like a physical blow. "I miss you too, baby. So much. Can we hang out today? Just you and me? Maybe Maya too?" I hesitated. This was exactly what Amber and Kenneth would want, using the children to get to me, making me feel guilty, making me cave. But Isaiah's face was so hopeful. And it wasn't his fault that his parents were teaching him terrible lessons about respect. "Tell you what," I said, "go ask your parents if it's okay for you and Maya to spend the day with Grandma. If they say yes, meet me back here in 30 minutes. He ran off, kicking up sand. I watched him disappear toward the resort, my heart heavy. 20 minutes later, both children came running back. Maya, 7 years old with her hair in braids, launched herself at me. "Grandma, Mom said we could stay with you all day. She said we're being too loud in the room anyway." Of course she did. Amber wanted a break from parenting, so she and Kenneth could probably strategize how to get back into my good graces. But I smiled and hugged Maya tight. "Okay then. What do you two want to do?" We spent the day together, swimming in the bay, building sandcastles, having lunch at the resort's casual restaurant where I let them order whatever they wanted, ice cream from the boardwalk shop, more swimming. They told me about school, about their friends, about Maya's dance classes and Isaiah's baseball team, normal grandparent-grandchild conversation that I'd been starved for. Around 5 p.m., as the sun started to lower, I walked them back toward the resort. Kenneth was waiting near the pool area. He looked tired, defeated. "Mom, can we talk, please?" I looked at the children. "You two go wash up for dinner. I'll see you tomorrow, okay?" They hugged me and ran off toward the elevators. Kenneth and I stood there in awkward silence. "I'm sorry," he finally said, "for laughing, for not defending you, for everything Amber has done over the years that I pretended not to see. Why did you let her treat me that way?" I asked. "I'm your mother. I raised you alone for 7 years. I gave you everything I had. Why wasn't that enough to earn your defense?" His eyes filled with tears. "Because I'm weak. Because it was easier to let her be mean to you than to deal with her anger at me. Because I'm a coward, Mom. I'm a coward and I'm ashamed." You should be ashamed." He flinched like I'd slapped him. "But shame without change is useless," I continued. "Are you going to change, Kenneth? Are you going to stand up to your wife? Are you going to teach your children that it's not okay to disrespect the people who love them?" "I want to. I swear I want to. Wanting isn't enough. Doing is what matters." Kenneth wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. "What do you want me to do?" "I want you to go back to your wife and have a serious conversation about respect, about boundaries, about the fact that I am not a doormat or a bank account with legs. I'm a human being who deserves basic dignity. And if she doesn't change, then you have a choice to make about what kind of man you want to be. The kind who protects his mother, or the kind who laughs when she's humiliated." I started to walk away, then turned back. "Kenneth, your father, your real father, he left because he was weak, because he couldn't handle responsibility. Thomas stayed because he was strong. He showed you what a real man looks like. Somewhere along the way, you forgot those lessons." "I know," he whispered. "I know." I left him standing there and returned to my suite. My phone, which I'd left in the room, showed 14 missed calls from Amber and several angry text messages that I deleted without reading. That night, I had dinner alone on my balcony. Chef Michael prepared blackened redfish with Creole rice and grilled vegetables. I drank a glass of white wine and watched the sunset paint the bay in shades of orange and pink. For the first time in years, I felt something I'd almost forgotten: peace. The rest of the vacation passed in a strange sort of bubble. I saw Isaiah and Maya every day, taking them to the beach, to the resort's game room, teaching Maya to swim better, throwing baseball with Isaiah. But I barely saw Kenneth, and I didn't see Amber at all. On the third day, Robert knocked on my suite door around 10 a.m. "Mrs. Fletcher, I wanted to inform you that your daughter-in-law attempted to charge several spa services to your account. I declined the charges, as per your standing instructions that no one else may use your membership benefits." "Thank you, Robert." She was quite upset about it. I'm sure she was. He hesitated. "Mrs. Fletcher, if I may speak freely?" "Please. I've been general manager here for 12 years. I've seen many families come through these doors. Wealthy families, complicated families, families with issues they try to hide behind expensive vacations. But I've never seen someone show as much grace under humiliation as you did in that lobby. I didn't feel very graceful. But you were. You didn't scream. You didn't cause a scene. You simply, quietly, reclaimed your dignity. It was remarkable." After he left, I sat thinking about his words. Reclaimed your dignity. Is that what I'd done? It felt more like I'd finally remembered I had dignity to begin with. On the fourth night, there was a knock at my door around 8 p.m. I opened it to find Amber standing there, alone. She looked different, smaller somehow. Her designer clothes seemed less impressive. Her makeup was lighter. She looked almost human. "Can I come in?" she asked quietly. I considered saying no, closing the door in her face the way she'd closed me out of family moments for years. But curiosity won. "You have 5 minutes." She walked into the suite and stopped, looking around at the opulence she'd probably been imagining all week while stuck in her standard room. "I owe you an apology," she began, her voice tight. "What I said in the lobby was cruel and unacceptable." "Yes, it was. I've been thinking about it all week, about why I said it, about why I've treated you the way I have. And..." She sat down on the sofa without being invited, her hands twisting in her lap. "I grew up poor, really poor. Food stamps and eviction notices poor. When I met Kenneth and found out his mother was a nurse, I thought, she's just like my family, working class, nothing special. And that gave you the right to treat me like trash?" "No." She looked up at me, and I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before: shame. But I thought, if I kept you small, if I made Kenneth see you as less than, then I wouldn't have to deal with my own insecurities. If you were nothing, then I was something. That's remarkably self-aware for someone who told me to sleep in a garbage bin 4 days ago. Kenneth made me see a therapist. Not here, but he called someone in Houston and made me do a video session yesterday. She said I have issues with internalized classism and projected insecurity. Amber laughed bitterly. Fancy words for being a terrible person. One therapy session doesn't fix 14 years of cruelty. I know that. But I need you to understand that when I found out you owned part of this place, that you have money I never knew about, it made me realize how badly I misjudged you. How much I let my own shame make me hurt you. So you're only apologizing because you found out I have money? No, she stood up, agitated. I'm apologizing because I finally understand that I've been punishing you for being everything I wished my own mother was. Strong, independent, dignified. My mother was weak. She let men walk all over her. She never stood up for herself or for me, and somehow I convinced myself that meant all working-class women were weak. But you're not weak. You're the strongest person I've ever met. I studied her face, looking for signs of manipulation, but all I saw was exhaustion and regret. Amber, here's the truth. I don't know if I can forgive you. I don't know if I even want to try. You've hurt me deeply, repeatedly, for over a decade. You've poisoned my relationship with my son. You've stolen years of time with my grandchildren that I can never get back. I know, but I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not accepting crumbs of affection. I'm not grateful for invitations that come wrapped in insults. I'm not pretending it's okay when it's not. What does that mean? It means from now on, if you want me in your life, you earn it. You show me consistent respect. You include me genuinely, not as an afterthought. You teach Isaiah and Maya that their grandmother matters, and Kenneth, he needs to find his spine and keep it. Amber nodded slowly. I understand. And I'll try. I can't promise I'll be perfect, but I'll try. Trying isn't good enough. Either you do it or you don't. There's no middle ground anymore. Okay, she whispered. Okay. After she left, I stood at the window for a long time, watching the lights on the bay. Part of me wanted to believe her. The part that was tired of fighting, tired of being alone, desperate for family connection. But another part of me, the part that had been burned too many times, knew better than to trust words without action. The vacation ended 2 days later. Kenneth knocked on my door the morning we were all supposed to check out. Mom, how are you getting back to Houston? I'm staying a few more days, I said. I'll drive back when I'm ready. Oh, okay. He shifted his weight. The kids wanted to say goodbye. Isaiah and Maya appeared from behind him, launching themselves at me for hugs. I held them tight, breathing in their little kid smell of sunscreen and chlorine. Will we see you soon, Grandma? Maya asked. I hope so, baby. Can we come to your house? We never get to see your house, Isaiah said. I looked at Kenneth over their heads. He had the grace to look ashamed. We'll see, I said. We'll see. After they left, I spent 3 more days at Bayou Heights. I swam, I read, I ate good food. I talked to Robert about the resort's operations, something I'd never done before. Thomas had handled all the business aspects of our investments. I'd signed papers when asked, but never really engaged. You should come to the quarterly ownership meetings, Robert suggested. You have voting rights on major decisions. The other 2 principal owners would benefit from your perspective. Maybe I will, I said. When I finally drove back to Houston, it was with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. I wasn't going to wait for Kenneth and Amber to change. I wasn't going to hold my breath hoping they'd suddenly become the family I deserved. I was going to build a life that didn't revolve around their approval. The first thing I did when I got home was go through my house with fresh eyes. It was a nice house in a quiet neighborhood near Memorial Park. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a small backyard. I'd lived here for 15 years, since Thomas and I bought it together. But I realized I didn't love it. I'd stayed because it was practical, because Kenneth knew where to find me, because changing felt like too much effort. I called a real estate agent the next day. "I want to sell," I told her, "and I want to look at properties near the coast, Galveston maybe, or further down toward Port Aransas." She was delighted, sensing a good commission. Within 2 weeks, I had 3 offers on my Houston house. I accepted the best one and started looking at coastal properties. I found a small house in Surfside Beach, about an hour south of Houston. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, nothing fancy. But it had a screened porch that faced the Gulf of Mexico, and when I stood on that porch during the showing, I felt something I'd been missing: hope. I bought it with cash. Moved in 6 weeks later with only the belongings I truly wanted to keep. The rest I donated or threw away. Decades of accumulation that suddenly felt like weight I didn't need to carry. Kenneth called several times during the move. "Mom, why didn't you tell me you were selling the house? Where are you going? Why are you being so secretive?" "I'm not being secretive. I'm being private. There's a difference." "But what if we need to reach you? You have my cell phone number. What if there's an emergency? Then you'll figure it out like adults do." The distance in my voice must have registered because he went quiet. "You're really done with us, aren't you?" "I'm done accepting less than I deserve. If you and Amber want to be part of my life, you know what you need to do. If you don't, then yes, I'm done." I hung up before he could respond. My new life in Surfside Beach started slowly. I didn't know anyone. I didn't have a routine. I spent the first week just sitting on my porch, watching the ocean, adjusting to the profound silence of having no obligations. Then I started exploring. I found a small church a few blocks away and started attending on Sundays. I met a woman named Patricia who invited me to her book club. I joined a water aerobics class at the community center. I volunteered at the local food bank once a week. Little by little, I built something new, a life that belonged to me. 3 months after I moved, I received a text from Kenneth with a photo attached. It was Isaiah and Maya holding a sign that read, "We miss you, Grandma," with hearts drawn around the words. My heart ached, but I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I called Kenneth. "Using the children to manipulate me isn't going to work," I said when he answered. "I'm not. That's not what I was doing." "Yes, it was. You want me to feel guilty enough to come running back, accepting whatever scraps of attention you're willing to give, but I'm not doing that anymore. Mom, please, the kids really do miss you. I miss you. Then visit me. Make the drive, show me that I'm worth the effort." Silence on the other end. "Then, where exactly are you?" I gave him my address. "If you come, there are rules. Amber must be respectful. You must be present, not just physically but emotionally. The children are welcome anytime, but I'm not going to pretend things are fine when they're not." "Okay," he said quietly. "Okay." 2 weeks later, on a Saturday morning, I heard a car pull up in front of my house. I looked out the window to see Kenneth's Honda. He got out alone. No Amber, no children. He stood on my porch, looking nervous. "Can I come in?" I opened the screen door. "Come in." We sat on my porch, the Gulf breeze blowing between us, the sound of waves filling the silence. "Amber and I are in marriage counseling," he said finally. "Real counseling, twice a week. She's dealing with a lot of issues about her childhood, about her relationship with her own mother." "That's good. And I'm dealing with my issues about being a coward, about choosing peace over principle, about failing you." I didn't argue with his assessment. "The therapist asked me to write down all the times I should have defended you but didn't. I filled 7 pages, Mom. 7 pages of moments where I let Amber hurt you, and I said nothing." His voice broke. "I read them in our session, and I couldn't stop crying, because I realized I've been exactly like my biological father. He abandoned us physically. I abandoned you emotionally." "Yes, you did," I said quietly. "You abandoned me emotionally for 14 years. You chose your wife's cruelty over my dignity. You laughed when she told me to sleep in a garbage bin. I know. He put his head in his hands. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know if I can fix it. You can't fix the past. You can only change the future. He looked up at me. I brought something for you. It's in the car. Can I get it? I nodded. He walked back to his Honda and returned with a shoebox. An old, battered shoebox that I recognized immediately. Is that Thomas's letters? The ones he wrote to me when I was in college. I kept them all. I took the box with trembling hands. Thomas had written Kenneth letters every week during his 4 years at Texas A&M. Long letters about life, responsibility, character, manhood. I'd never read them. They were private, between Thomas and Kenneth. He wrote about you in almost every letter, Kenneth said, about how strong you were, how you'd raised me alone, how lucky he was to have found you, how I should never take you for granted because women like you were rare. Why are you showing me this now? Because I want you to know that I did hear him. I did understand what he was trying to teach me. I got lost somewhere. I let Amber's voice become louder than Thomas's voice. And I'm trying to find my way back. I opened one of the letters at random. Thomas's familiar handwriting made my eyes sting with tears. Kenneth, your mother worked a double shift yesterday and came home to make your favorite dinner anyway because she knew you were stressed about midterms. That's love. Real love isn't just feeling something. It's doing something, even when you're exhausted. Remember that when you have your own family someday, Deborah deserves a son who sees her, who values her, who protects her. Be that son. I closed the letter. He knew. Thomas knew you would need these reminders. I failed him. I failed you. I failed myself. We sat in silence for a while, watching the waves roll in and out, eternal and indifferent to human pain. What do you want from me, Kenneth? I finally asked. Why did you drive all the way here today? I want a chance, not to go back to how things were, but to build something new, something honest. I'm not asking you to forgive Amber overnight. I'm not even asking you to forgive me. I'm just asking for a chance to show you that I can change. And Amber? How does she feel about all this therapy and self-reflection? She's scared. She's terrified, actually. She's realizing that her behavior might have cost her family, that I might choose you over her if she doesn't change. Would you? He met my eyes. Yes, if it comes down to it. If she can't treat you with respect, I'll divorce her. The therapist asked me what I valued most, and I realized I value my children having a grandmother who loves them. I value being a man Thomas would be proud of, and I can't be that man while married to someone who treats my mother like garbage. I studied his face, looking for signs of manipulation or empty promises, but all I saw was exhaustion and determination. I'm not coming back to Houston, I said. This is my home now. If you want to be part of my life, you come here. You make the effort. I understand. And the children, they're welcome any time, but supervised visits at first. I need to know they're not being taught to disrespect me at home. They're not. I promise they're not. Amber and I have been working on that. We told them what happened at the resort was wrong. We explained that Grandma deserves respect. Maya actually asked why Mom was so mean to you, and we didn't have a good answer, except to say that Mom made bad choices. Good. They should know the truth, age appropriately. Kenneth stood up. I should go. I told Amber I'd be back by dinner. But, Mom, can I come back next week? Can I bring the kids? Next week, Saturday. Come for lunch. Just you and the children. No Amber yet. Relief flooded his face. Thank you. Thank you, Mom. After he left, I sat on my porch with Thomas's box of letters. I read through them one by one, hearing his voice in every word, feeling his love and wisdom reaching across the years from beyond the grave. One letter, dated from Kenneth's senior year of college, made me stop breathing for a moment. Kenneth, I need you to know something. If anything happens to me, if I'm not around to see you build your adult life, promise me you'll take care of your mother. Not financially, she's smarter with money than I am, but emotionally, promise me you'll see her, really see her. Not as the woman who serves you, but as a complete person with her own needs, her own dreams, her own limits. Promise me you won't let anyone, not even the woman you marry, diminish her. Because Deborah Fletcher is extraordinary, and if you ever forget that, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. I pressed the letter to my chest and cried. For Thomas. For the years Kenneth had forgotten his promise. For the pain that could have been avoided if Kenneth had just remembered these words. But I also cried with hope. Because maybe, finally, he was starting to remember. The next Saturday, Kenneth arrived with Isaiah and Maya at noon. They ran up my porch steps carrying a cooler. Grandma, Dad said we could bring lunch. We got fried chicken from that place you like in Houston. We ate on the porch, the children chattering about school and friends, and a new video game Isaiah was obsessed with. Kenneth was quiet, mostly listening, occasionally interjecting with parental guidance when Maya started talking with her mouth full. After lunch, we walked on the beach. The children ran ahead, chasing waves and looking for shells. Kenneth and I walked behind them. Amber asked if she could write you a letter, he said. Not text, not email. A real letter. She's been working on it with her therapist. She can send it. I can't promise I'll respond. That's fair. We walked in silence for a while. Then Kenneth said, I found something else in the house, in the attic, a journal that Thomas kept. Did you know he journaled? No, he never mentioned it. He wrote about you, about watching you raise me, about falling in love with you, about being grateful every day that you chose him. My heart squeezed painfully. Did you bring it? Not today. But I will, if you want it. I thought you might like to have it. To know how much he loved you. How much he admired you. I'd like that very much. Over the next 3 months, a pattern developed. Kenneth brought the children every other Saturday. Sometimes they'd spend the whole day, sometimes just a few hours. We'd walk on the beach, build sandcastles, fly kites, eat ice cream from the little shop down the road. Kenneth was different during these visits, more present, more attentive. He listened when I spoke instead of just waiting for his turn to talk. He apologized when he needed to, without making excuses. He was becoming the man Thomas had tried to teach him to be. Amber's letter arrived in the 4th week. It was 8 pages long, handwritten, tear-stained in places. She wrote about her childhood. About a mother who'd been so broken by poverty and abuse that she couldn't protect Amber from her stepfather's violence. About learning that weakness was the worst thing a woman could be. About deciding she'd never be weak, never be vulnerable, never be like her mother. And then I met you, she wrote. This woman who worked as a nurse, who seemed ordinary on the surface, and I was terrified that Kenneth would see his mother's strength and compare it to my mother's weakness, so I made you the enemy. I convinced myself you were trying to control Kenneth, trying to come between us. I built a wall of cruelty to keep you at a distance, because if you got too close, Kenneth might see what I really was. Scared. Insecure. Exactly like the mother I swore I'd never become. She wrote about the lobby incident. When I said those words to you, when I humiliated you in front of strangers, I felt powerful for exactly 30 seconds. Then I saw your face. And I saw myself becoming exactly what I hated most. A woman who tears down other women to feel big. A woman who uses cruelty as armor. My mother's abuser. The letter ended with a simple request. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking for a chance to show you I'm not that person anymore. I'm asking for a chance to show Isaiah and Maya what it looks like when a woman makes terrible mistakes and works to fix them. I'm asking for grace I don't deserve. I read the letter 3 times. Then I put it in a drawer and didn't respond for 2 weeks. Finally, I sent a brief reply. I received your letter. I appreciate your honesty. Time will tell if your actions match your words. For now, keep working on yourself. The children speak highly of the changes they're seeing at home. That's a start. Kenneth brought Thomas's journal the following Saturday. It was a leather-bound book, worn with age, filled with Thomas's neat handwriting. I've been reading it, Kenneth admitted. I hope that's okay. It's helped me understand him better. And you. That night, after Kenneth and the children left, I sat on my porch and opened the journal. The first entry was dated 20 years ago, shortly after Thomas and I had started dating. Met Deborah's son Kenneth today. 7 years old, smart as a whip, but guarded. He watched me like a hawk the whole time, assessing whether I was a threat. Can't blame him. His father abandoned them. He's learned not to trust men who promise to stay. I'm going to prove I'm different. I'm going to be the father he deserves. And I'm going to love his mother the way she deserves to be loved, fiercely and without reservation. I read entry after entry, watching our love story unfold through Thomas's eyes. His nervousness before proposing. His joy when I said yes. His pride when Kenneth called him Dad for the first time. His gratitude for every ordinary day we spent together. Near the end of the journal, about a year before he died, Thomas wrote an entry that made me sob. Deborah asked me today what I wanted for my birthday. I told her nothing. I have everything I need. A woman who makes me laugh every day. A son who's grown into a good man. A life built on honesty and love. If I died tomorrow, I'd die grateful, but I hope I have more time. I hope I get to grow old with her. I hope I get to see Kenneth have children. I hope I get 10,000 more ordinary days of drinking coffee with Deborah while she reads the paper and I do the crossword. That's what happiness is. Not the big moments. The small ones. The unremarkable ones. The ones we barely notice until they're gone. The tears came hard then, years of grief I'd been holding back since he died. Thomas had known. He'd known our time was precious, and he'd savored every moment. My phone rang. It was Kenneth. Mom, are you okay? I just had this weird feeling that I should call. I'm reading the journal, I managed to say through my tears. Oh, Mom. I shouldn't have given it to you. I didn't think. No, I'm glad you did. I needed this. I needed to remember. Remember what? That I was loved, really loved, not for what I did for him or gave him, just for who I was. Thomas saw me. He did. And Mom, I'm starting to see you too. Finally, 6 months after the resort incident, Amber asked through Kenneth if she could visit. Just her, no children. Just 30 minutes of my time. I almost said no. But something in me, maybe the part that had read Thomas's words about grace and second chances, said yes. She arrived on a Tuesday afternoon, driving herself in the Honda. Kenneth had stayed home with the children. She looked different again. Less makeup, simpler clothes. Older, in a way that suggested she'd stopped trying so hard to appear perfect. We sat on my porch. I didn't offer her anything to drink. This wasn't a social call. Thank you for seeing me, she started. You have 30 minutes. Start talking. I've been in therapy for 6 months now, individual and couples counseling. I've been diagnosed with complex PTSD from my childhood. I'm on medication for anxiety. I'm learning coping mechanisms that don't involve tearing down other people. That's good for you. What does it have to do with me? Everything. Because you were the target of all my unprocessed trauma. You were everything my mother wasn't. Strong, independent, capable of setting boundaries. And instead of admiring that, instead of learning from you, I attacked you. Yes, you did. I want to make amends. Real amends, not just words. I've been reading about restorative justice. The person who was harmed gets to decide what accountability looks like. So I'm asking you, what would make this right? What can I do to repair the damage? I looked at her for a long moment. You can't repair 14 years of cruelty with one conversation, Amber. I know. But you can stop adding to the damage. You can treat me with respect from this point forward. You can teach my grandchildren that their grandmother is valuable. You can work on being a better person, not for my benefit, but because it's the right thing to do. I'm trying. I swear I'm trying. Then keep trying. And maybe, eventually, we can build something new. Not friendship. I don't think we'll ever be friends. But maybe mutual respect. Maybe peaceful coexistence for the sake of the children. I'll take it, she said quietly. I'll take whatever you're willing to give. A year after the incident at Bayou Heights Resort, I was sitting on my porch when I saw Kenneth's Honda pull up. But this time, everyone got out. Kenneth, Amber, Isaiah, and Maya. I stood up slowly, uncertain. This was the first time Amber had come with the whole family since that day in the lobby. Isaiah ran up first, as always. "Grandma, we brought a picnic. Can we eat on the beach?" "Of course, baby." Amber stayed back, letting the children rush past her. She met my eyes. I asked Kenneth if we could all come. "If it's too much, we can leave." "Stay," I said. "The children want to be here." We walked down to the beach together, the awkwardness thick between the adults while Isaiah and Maya ran ahead, oblivious. We spread out blankets and unpacked the food. Sandwiches, fruit, chips, sweet tea. For a while, we ate in relative silence. Then Maya, in that innocent way children have of saying what adults won't, asked, "Grandma, are you still mad at Mom?" Everyone froze. Amber's face went pale. Kenneth looked like he wanted to disappear. But I looked at Maya's open, curious face and decided to answer honestly. "I was very hurt by some things your mom did. But your mom is working hard to be better. And that's what matters. Not being perfect, but trying to grow. Like when I got in trouble for being mean to Sarah at school and had to apologize?" Maya asked. "Exactly like that. And now Sarah is my friend again. Sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. But the apology is important either way." Amber's eyes were full of tears. "Thank you," she whispered. The afternoon passed more easily than I'd expected. The children played. Kenneth and I talked about the resort, about business decisions I was now actively involved in. Amber mostly stayed quiet, but not in the sullen way she used to. In a respectful way. Giving me space to exist without her commentary. As they were packing up to leave, Amber approached me while Kenneth was loading the car. "Deborah, I know we're not there yet. Maybe we'll never be there, but I want you to know that I see you now. I see what Kenneth had his whole life and took for granted. And I'm teaching my children to see you too. That's all I've ever wanted. To be seen." 2 years after the resort incident, Kenneth called me on Mother's Day. "Mom, we'd like to take you to brunch. All of us. At Bayou Heights." I laughed. "You want to go back there?" "I want to make new memories. Better memories." Amber's idea, actually. We met at the resort on a sunny May morning. Robert greeted me at the entrance like the old friend he'd become. "Mrs. Fletcher, how wonderful to see you. Your usual table?" "Actually, Robert, could we have a table for 5? My family is joining me." His smile was genuine. "Of course, right this way." We sat at a table overlooking the bay, the same bay I'd stared at from the presidential suite 2 years ago, processing betrayal and finding strength. But now, I was surrounded by my family. Imperfect, still healing, but trying. Isaiah asked about Thomas, questions he'd never asked before. "What was he like? What did he teach you? Did he love baseball like me?" I told him stories, and Kenneth added his own memories, his voice thick with emotion. He was the best father I could have asked for. I wish I'd told him that more often. "You can still honor him," I said, "by being the father he taught you to be." After brunch, we walked along the beach behind the resort. Amber hung back with me while Kenneth played with the children. "Thank you for giving us another chance," she said. "Thank you for taking it seriously. Can I ask you something? That day in the lobby, When you pulled out that card, did you know how it would end? No. I just knew I was done accepting less than I deserved. That took courage. It took desperation. But maybe that's the same thing sometimes. We walked in silence for a bit. Then Amber said, "I'm pregnant. We haven't told the kids yet. But I wanted you to know. And I want you to be involved this time. Not shut out like I did with Maya and Isaiah." My breath caught. Really? Really? This baby deserves to know their grandmother from the beginning, to grow up seeing you respected and valued. I want to do it right this time. Tears filled my eyes. I'd like that very much. That night, back in my beach house, I sat on my porch with Thomas's journal open in my lap. I'd read it cover to cover dozens of times, but I kept coming back to it, finding new meaning in his words. The last entry, written a week before his death, read simply, "If Deborah reads this someday after I'm gone, I want her to know this. You were the best part of my life. Don't let anyone make you forget your worth. Not Kenneth, not his wife, not anyone. You are extraordinary. Live like you know it." I closed the journal and looked out at the Gulf. The waves rolled in, eternal and patient. The stars appeared one by one in the darkening sky. I thought about the woman I'd been a year ago, standing in that lobby, humiliated and broken. I thought about the strength it took to pull out that card, to reclaim my dignity, to walk away from relationships that were destroying me. And I thought about the woman I was now, still healing, but whole, still hurting sometimes, but at peace, still a mother, still a grandmother, but no longer defined solely by those roles. I was Deborah Fletcher, 62 years old, nurse, widow, business owner, woman who knew her worth, woman who had finally chosen herself. And that choice, that simple but revolutionary choice, had changed everything. That is Deborah Fletcher's story. Now I want to hear from you. Where are you watching this from? What city? What country? Drop it in the comments below. I love seeing our global community come together over these stories about public humiliation, finding your worth after decades of disrespect, and the moment when a 60-year-old mother pulls out a gold card that changes everything. Real question. If you were Deborah standing in that luxury resort lobby and your daughter-in-law told you to sleep in a garbage bin while your son laughed, what would you have done? Would you have walked out and never looked back? Would you have caused a scene? Or would you have done exactly what Deborah did and quietly reclaimed your power? Tell me in the comments. Hit that like button if this story made you feel something. Share it if you know someone who's been treated like they're invisible by the family they sacrificed everything for. Someone who worked 38 years supporting ungrateful children. Someone who gave $52,000 as a wedding gift while wearing the same 4 outfits for years because every dollar went to their child's future. And subscribe for more raw, real stories about mothers-in-law who own the resorts their daughters-in-law try to humiliate them in, sons who finally find their spine after 14 years of choosing their wives over their mothers, children who learn that even the woman who raised you alone has limits, and what happens when the nurse everyone underestimated turns out to own part of the luxury resort. Thanks for watching. Sometimes the person who tells you to sleep in a garbage bin doesn't know you own the building. Sometimes your late husband's journal reminds you of your worth when everyone else forgot. Sometimes moving to a beach house an hour away is the only way to save yourself. And sometimes the most powerful thing a mother can do is choose herself first, even when it means losing her family to find her peace. See you in the next video.